When you think of ancient Egyptian fashion, what comes to mind? Probably someone like Cleopatra or King Tut, right? Simple white linen, some flashy gold, and of course, that super heavy eyeliner. But here's the thing, that's just one tiny little chapter in a story that spans thousands of years. So today, we're gonna peel back those pop culture layers and discover how clothing in Egypt went from being purely practical to a complex and honestly fascinating language. To really get a feel for how incredible Egyptian style was, let's just do a quick comparison. Picture the 1800s in Europe. Women were literally weighed down by up to 16 heavy petticoats. I mean, can you imagine? Egyptian fashion, for most of its history, was the absolute complete opposite. It was all about being lightweight, practical, and having freedom of movement, especially in a crazy hot climate. In a lot of ways, it was shockingly modern. So this brings us to the big question we're diving into. How did a simple piece of cloth, something designed just to keep you cool, transform into this whole system of communication? A system that could broadcast your wealth, your job, and your connection to power, all without you ever having to say a single word. The core idea here, and we're gonna see this again and again throughout Egyptian history, is that clothing has always been a social language. It's never just been about covering up. It's about communicating who you are, where you stand in the social pecking order, and what you represent. So, let's start at the beginning. Okay, our journey kicks off in the Pharaonic era. This is the period most of us think of. And it's here that the foundational grammar of Egyptian fashion was set in stone. It was a style so timeless, so effective, that it stuck around for an unbelievable 3,000 years, as you're about to see. Now, what's so interesting here is you can see this really slow, steady evolution. We start way back in the Old Kingdom with super simple, functional linen kilts, practical stuff. Then, by the Middle Kingdom, styles get a little longer, a bit more detailed. And then, bam, the New Kingdom hits. Egypt becomes this massive empire, and fashion just explodes with wealth, new materials, and a ton of complexity. For the women of the upper class, the iconic garment was the kilts. Now, this wasn't some complex, tailored dress. It was basically a single sheet of really fine linen, but it was skillfully wrapped and draped around the body to create this incredibly elegant, form-fitting sheath held up by straps over the shoulders. Simple, but oh so effective. So the key takeaway is that this early fashion language had a very basic vocabulary. The material was breathable linen. The main garments were the kilt, or shendidi, for men, and the kilts for women. But this simplicity wasn't just practical. It was a very deliberate cultural choice. It reflected the core value of mat, the Egyptian idea of harmony, order, and purity, all of which you can see in those clean lines and brilliant white cloth. But that simple foundation, well, it was about to get a lot more complicated. In the New Kingdom, Egyptian fashion becomes truly extravagant. This is the age of empire. We're talking immense wealth, international trade, the whole shebang. And for the rich, this meant adding a whole new set of luxurious adjectives to their fashion statements. All of a sudden, we're seeing these sheer, almost transparent linen capes and layers of incredibly complex pleated fabrics. This is also when we get those elaborate wigs and that heavy kohl eyeliner becoming huge status symbols for both men and women. And for the ultimate flex, a beautiful beaded net dress made of thousands of colorful beads worn right over a simple linen sheath. But wait, the story doesn't end when the last pharaoh falls. Nope. In fact, this is where things get really, really interesting. With the arrival of Islamic culture in the 7th century, Egypt gets new materials like silk and a totally radical new idea, weaving words directly onto clothing. These remarkable garments were called tiraz. The name itself comes from a Persian word for embroidery, and it actually refers to two things. First, the royal workshops that made these luxury clothes, and second, the decorative bands of writing on the clothes themselves. Owning a tiraz garment was a very clear, very public symbol of your wealth and high status. And this is where clothing truly started to speak. At first, the tiraz bands, often on the sleeves, had actual readable text. They might have the name of the ruler, the caliph, or feature a quote from the Quran. This basically marked them as official high-status items, almost like a wearable certificate of honor that you got from the court. But then, something absolutely fascinating happened. The look itself became so popular, so fashionable, that the meaning started to shift. The language began to evolve into pure style. And this slide just illustrates that change perfectly.
Early tiraz had readable text, and it functioned like an official stamp of approval. But later, as the trend spread, weavers who couldn't write or were just making cheaper versions started creating this pseudo-Kufic script. These were just patterns that looked like Arabic writing but were purely decorative. The text had literally transformed from information into a fashion statement.
Okay, let's jump forward in time again. We're going to the Mamluk era, from the 13th to the 16th centuries. And here, the language of fashion takes another sharp turn, this time towards these bold, graphic statements that feel, honestly, surprisingly modern. Welcome to the age of the logo. The most fascinating Mamluk fashion innovation has gotta be the blazon. You can pretty much think of it as a personal logo or a coat of arms. It was a unique graphic symbol that identified a high-ranking official, called an emir, and it specified exactly what their job was in the Sultan's court. So the crucial point is, this was, for all intents and purposes, a 14th century form of personal branding. It was a status symbol that everyone in the multilingual Mamluk court would have recognized instantly. No translation required. And here's how it worked. It was a visual shorthand for power. If you saw that cup symbol, you knew that person was the cup bearer. And this wasn't just some servant, this was one of the Sultan's most trusted confidants, responsible for tasting his drinks to protect him from being poisoned. A sword obviously meant a top military commander, and a pen box identified a powerful court official. It was an instant, super efficient way to read the power structure of any room you walked into. So when we step back and look at the whole picture, we see this incredible 4,000-year journey. You can actually trace a really clear evolutionary path for the language of fashion in Egypt. It all starts with function, simple linen for the climate and for cultural values. Then comes luxury, as the empire's wealth adds layers and details to show off status. That evolves into information, with the revolutionary concept of wearable, readable text on tiraz garments. And finally, it all culminates in identity, with the blazon perfecting this language through efficient, personal, graphic logos. This entire history just shows, brilliantly, that clothing is never just clothing. It's a living record of technology, of power, of culture, and of identity, which really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? So when future historians dig up our world, what stories will they read in the logos, the brands, and the styles we decided to put on our bodies every single day? What will our clothes say about us?